All right, so welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something a little bit different.
Yeah, a little different.
A little different. This is a YouTube series called When God Made Her, The Many Roles of a Woman.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not looking at the whole series. We're just zeroing in on the first episode of that series, which is called The Blueprint.
It's a good one.
It is a good one, and it's only like 3 minutes long,
Right.
but it's packed.
Oh, yeah. It's a really dense 3 minutes.
It is very dense.
Like a fruitcake.
Yeah, a very dense fruitcake.
Like not dry.
Not dry, no.
Like a good fruitcake.
Yeah, a very moist and delicious fruitcake.
Yeah.
And it's very like warm and reflective,
Mhm.
and it's narrated by this woman with a very calming voice.
Yeah. Very soothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we thought this would be a cool one to just kind of pick apart and look at some of the ideas that are presented in it.
Yeah. I mean, it's only 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
But it's, like I said, dense. And it is pretty profound.
Yes, and it starts right out of the gate with this idea that before a woman is born, God is intentionally and carefully crafting her.
Right off the bat, it's like, bam, intentionality.
Yeah.
You know, and this isn't some slapdash. You know,
Yeah.
it even says like she wasn't created from leftovers.
Right, it wasn't an afterthought.
Right.
It was very intentional.
Deliberate.
Deliberate. And I love that it says that she was formed in the secret place.
Yeah. What do you think about that image of the secret place?
That makes me think of like a workshop, you know,
Right.
where an artisan is working on this very special project and like everything is just so, and it's quiet and it's,
Yeah.
you know, peaceful and
Focused.
very focused. Yeah. And it's just this like beautiful image of like how much care went into
Yeah.
her creation.
Yeah, I mean, it really sets the tone for like how special and unique and, you know,
Right.
wonderful women are.
Yeah,
You know, it's
yeah.
not like, oh yeah, we just, slapped this together real quick. No, it was like
Right.
very, very carefully planned. And
Yeah, and so then it goes on to describe her like she was formed with love in her eyes and strength in her spine and wisdom in her silence.
ooh, I love that.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that it says she was formed with these things. It's not like she
Yeah.
developed these things. It's like these are inherent qualities.
Yeah, I mean, you think about a baby girl, and it's like you look in their eyes and you see like pure love,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like that's not something that they learn. It's like innate.
Right.
And then the strength. I mean, you see how resilient little girls are,
Yeah.
fall down, they get back up. They're tough.
They are.
And then the wisdom in her silence.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting because, like,
Yeah.
we often think of wisdom as something that comes with age and experience,
Right.
but
yeah.
it's suggesting that there's this like inherent wisdom that's present even in silence.
Right. And I think that speaks to like women's intuition,
Yeah.
that there's this like deep inner knowing that is there from the beginning.
And how often is that dismissed or,
So
overlooked?
Yeah. Yeah.
People are like, oh, you're just being emotional or you're being whatever. And it's like, no,
Right.
this is like an intuitive knowing.
Right. And I think that's something that women have always had to like fight for, is to have their voices heard and to have their intuition valued.
For sure.
Yeah. And then it goes on to say that she would matter in every room she entered and in every life she touched.
Mm.
And I think that's so powerful because it's saying that her worth is inherent.
Right.
It's not based on what she does or what she achieves.
It's just her being.
yeah, just her being.
And how different is that than like, the messaging that we get from society today,
Totally.
which is all about like, what do you do? What do you produce? How
Yeah.
much money do you make? Like your worth is based on your output. And this is saying, no. Your worth is inherent. You matter just because you exist.
Right. And that's a really hard message to like internalize in our culture
It is.
because we're constantly being bombarded with messages that are the opposite of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's something that like, we all struggle with
Yeah.
as women, especially,
Oh.
like feeling like we have to prove our worth all the time.
Yeah. And it's exhausting.
It is.
Yeah. And then it goes on to say she was never just a girl.
I love that line.
Yeah. And I think that's so important because it's acknowledging that women are complex
Yeah.
and that they can't be put in a box.
Right.
They're not just one thing.
And then it goes on to list all these roles, daughter, sister, friend, wife, mother, healer, helper. Like,
Right.
it's like this beautiful tapestry of all these different
Right.
aspects of womanhood.
Right. And it's saying that all of these things are woven together
Right.
in one human soul.
Yeah. It's not like you have to choose one or the other. It's like all of these things can coexist within you.
Right. And I think that's really freeing.
It is.
Because it's like you don't have to be just one thing. You can be all of these things.
Right. And you can be different things at different times in your life, you know?
Right.
Like you might be a daughter and a sister and a friend, and then later on you might become a wife and a mother. And,
right.
you know, it's not like a static thing. It's a dynamic, ever-evolving thing.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's really beautiful about womanhood is that it's constantly evolving and changing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then it goes on to acknowledge that there will be challenges, you know?
Right. It doesn't shy away from the hard stuff.
Yeah. It says that she would be underestimated and overworked and overlooked. And I think that's really important because it's acknowledging the reality that women face.
Yeah. It's not sugarcoating it.
Right.
It's like, yeah, this is going to be tough.
Yeah. And I think that's important for women to hear.
Right.
Because it's like, you're not alone in this.
Yeah.
You know, other women have faced these challenges and overcome them.
Right. And you will too.
Yes. And then it says, but still she'd rise.
Ooh, chill.
Yeah. And I think that's so powerful because it's saying that despite all of the challenges, women are resilient.
They are.
They're strong.
And where do you think that strength comes from?
I think it comes from that inherent worth that we were talking about earlier. You know, that deep down inside, women know that they matter.
Yeah.
And that gives them the strength to keep going even when things are tough.
And I think it also comes from community, you know?
Yeah.
Women supporting other women.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, that sisterhood that's so powerful.
Right. And I think that's something that's really beautiful about women is that they do tend to support each other and lift each other up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it goes on to say her identity wasn't rooted in how much she could do,
Right.
but in how deeply she was loved.
I mean, that's the crux of it right there.
Yeah. And I think that's such a powerful message because it's saying that our worth isn't based on our achievements.
Right.
It's based on love. It's about being loved.
Yeah. And that's such a different way of thinking about it.
It is.
You know, because we're so conditioned to think that our worth is based on what we do.
Right.
And how much we achieve.
And, you know, for you listening, like,
Yeah.
think about that for a second. Like, where do you get your sense of worth from?
Yeah.
Is it from, you know, getting that promotion? Or is it from, you know, getting straight A's? Or is it from, you know, having a certain number of followers on social media or whatever?
Right.
Or is it from something deeper?
Right.
Is it from knowing that you are loved
Right.
unconditionally?
Right. And that's a really hard question to answer.
It is.
Because I think for a lot of us, our worth is tied up in our achievements.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to separate those two things.
It is, but I think it's important to try.
Yeah, and I think this video is a good reminder that our worth is inherent
Yeah.
and that we don't have to earn it.
We are enough.
Yeah, just as we are.
Just as we are. And then it goes on to describe her story. You know, it says it was a story written with laughter and pain and purpose and late nights and early mornings and secret tears and faithful prayers.
I mean, that's life, right?
It is, yeah. It's like the whole human experience is captured in that one sentence.
The highs and the lows, the, you know, the joy and the sorrow.
Yeah. And I think it's comforting to know that all of those things are part of a meaningful life.
Right. It's not like you have to just have the good stuff.
Right.
It's like the hard stuff is what makes the good stuff even better.
Right. And it's what makes us who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it says, she wouldn't always feel strong,
Mm-hmm.
but he would be her strength.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. And I think that's so important because it's acknowledging that we're not always going to feel strong.
Right.
You know, there are going to be times when we feel weak and vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
but that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important message for women to hear because we're often expected to be strong all the time. And it's like, no, it's okay to not be strong all the time.
You're human.
Yeah, we're human.
And it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, and I think that's what that line is saying is that there's a source of strength outside of ourselves that we can tap into when we need it.
Yeah. If we think back to the beginning, you know, this idea of divine intention.
Yeah.
It's like that strength is part of the plan.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, you're weak, you messed up. It's like, no,
Right.
you're going to need help sometimes. And that's okay.
Right, and that help is available.
It is.
Yeah, and then the video ends with this really powerful image.
Okay.
It says she was the blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
but not a blueprint for perfection,
Right.
but a blueprint of divine intention.
And what a way to end it.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because it's saying that women are not meant to be perfect.
Right.
They're meant to be who they are.
Yeah. And that who they are is a gift to
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah, and it's a gift that's full of complexity and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last line is, and this is only the beginning.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, and I think that's such a hopeful message.
It is.
Because it's saying that this is just the start.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so much more to come.
So much more to explore and discover.
Yeah, and I think that's a really exciting thought.
It is, yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this episode of When God Made Her, I think the main takeaway is that women are valuable and worthy, just as they are.
Absolutely.
And that their identity is rooted in love, not achievement.
Right, and that they have a unique and important role to play in the world.
Yes, and that they're strong and resilient and capable of overcoming any challenge.
And for you listening, someone who's obviously interested in, learning and growing and understanding yourself better.
Yeah.
This is just one perspective, but it's a really powerful one.
It is.
And it's worth considering,
Yeah.
Like, how does this resonate with you?
Yeah. And how can you apply this to your own life? Yeah. And I think the end screen of the video had a really interesting question.
Okay.
It said, considering this foundational perspective that being a daughter is the beginning, how might understanding that role differently illuminate the other roles you navigate in your life?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so that's something for all of us to think about.
Yeah, chew on that.
Yeah. So I think that's it for today.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.